Well, hello. You're watching Much Ado About Something, and I'm Donna. Welcome if you're new here, and welcome back if you've been around for a while. Well, today we're going to make the world's best apple cake. Now, this is our and our family's opinion. I'm going to show you the recipe I got here, and this one says DJ's Apple Cake, and I named it that because I always make this apple cake for my brother for his birthday, but it is the same apple cake. The world's best apple cake is DJ's apple cake in my recipe book. It's the one I always make. Now, if you want to screenshot this, feel free to screenshot this handwritten recipe. This recipe is as far back as we can trace is around 200 years old. It's been in our family that long. Of course, there's been some moderations, like corn oil. We didn't have corn oil back then, but that's been the change. Normally, they would have just used melted lard in this recipe. But this is a really good apple cake. It's the best that I've ever had, and it's the one I always take to family reunions, to potlucks, to church dinners. This is the apple cake that I take. I wanted to share the recipe with you today, and I hope that you'll try it, and then it'll be delicious. Now, the first thing I always do when I make this apple cake, this is a 9.5 by 13.5 baking dish. You go ahead and coat that with whatever seasoning you want to coat it with to keep it from sticking. I'm using butter here, but you can use whatever you want to. You can use lard. Whatever you usually coat your pans with to keep them from sticking. That's the first thing I go ahead and do. And here I have 4 cups of finely chopped apples. I chopped these, and you can see I left the peelings on mine. You can feel free to peel yours if you want to. But I've got my apples cut up, my 4 cups of finely chopped apples. Now I've got 2 cups of all-purpose flour in this bowl, and I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of the dry seasonings to this bowl. I'm going to add the baking soda, 1.5 teaspoons. Well, I've got my chopped apples here. I'm going to add 2 cups. I'm going to go ahead and add the 2 cups of sugar to the chopped apples, and they can be sitting there while I'm mixing up all this other stuff. So I got the 2 cups of sugar in the apples. We'll just let this sit to the side while we mix up our flour, our dry ingredient flour mixture. Okay, we got our 2 cups of flour in here. We're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. I'm going to go ahead and sift this baking soda through this little sieve right here, through this little thing, because I cannot stand to get a hunk of baking soda in my mouth from any recipe. And it seems like my baking soda always wants to clump up. So we got the 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda here. See those little clumps that get in there? You don't break them up. Sometimes they'll be in your recipe, and that'll be a mess. That's not a flavor you want to get a whole bite of. Okay, we got our baking soda. We're going to get 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. I'm actually going to put 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I love cinnamon. A 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. Now I just do a 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg because to me nutmeg is really strong. A teaspoon of salt. And there's our dry ingredients. I'm going to go ahead and whisk all these dry ingredients together so they're distributed in that flour really well. And we'll mix up all of the other stuff. Let's get a couple of eggs and beat them up real good. That's just stains in the bottom of my little mixing bowl there. Okay, we're going to use 3/4 cups of oil. This calls for corn oil, but I use avocado oil. Feel free to use whatever kind of oil you use. I didn't have quite enough in that one that avocado oil to go ahead and make 3/4 of a cup, so I had to open another container. Okay, I'm going to put the avocado oil right in here with the eggs. It calls for 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I make my own vanilla. That's my vanilla beans in there. Oops. All right, and 1/4 of a cup of lemon juice. I'm using this bottled lemon juice. Shake it up good before you use it. And it's 1/4 of a cup of lemon juice. We'll add that right into these wet ingredients that I got here. We'll mix those all together. This calls for 1/2 cup of walnuts. I'm going to go ahead and get those and add those. Now you can chop these up more. I'm just going to go ahead and add them to my flour. Break them up a little bit as I put them in there. Calls for 1/2 cup, but you can put as many as you like. If you love a lot of walnuts, then just add as many as you like. I love walnuts. It's my nut of choice to bake with. And walnuts and apples, they go deliciously together. Now this calls for raisins, 1/2 cup of raisins. I'm going to leave the raisins out because my husband doesn't like them, and there's a few people in our family that's not crazy about raisins. So I'm just going to go ahead and skip these raisins. But you feel free to add raisins if you'd like, and even craisins. Dried cranberries are delicious in this. I have done that, especially around Christmas. But I am going to leave the raisins out this time. Now I'll just go ahead and mix the walnuts in with the dry ingredients first. And then I'm going to go ahead and add all my other wet ingredients. And when I get that pretty good and mixed up a bit there, I'm going to go ahead and add my apples and my sugar. I'm going to get all these whole ingredients mixed in here really good. Get all these ingredients thoroughly combined. Try to keep them in the bowl. Once you get them all incorporated really good, all the ingredients, just go ahead and put them in your 9 by 13, or in my case it's a 9.5 by 13.5 because that's the pan that I have. Now this world's best apple cake might also be the world's easiest apple cake. I mean, that was pretty easy mixing those ingredients, wasn't it? Wasn't complicated at all, and there was a lot of just simple ingredients in here. Nothing really overly processed. All these ingredients added in this apple cake, something you would recognize if it was out on its own. So that makes it for a really good dessert. We're going to put this apple cake in the oven and cook it at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 1 hour. Your oven may take just a little bit longer. I'm just going to go ahead and set the timer. That way if I get busy, I won't forget about this thing and leave it in here longer than it should be. So it's set for an hour. I'll check it in the hour. It's in here cooking. And while I wait on that apple cake to cook, I'm going to go ahead and clean up these dishes. You know, I don't have a dishwasher, so I'm going to hand wash these things, and that'll take me a few minutes. Well, our apple cake is ready. There you go. It's the world's best apple cake. You can let it cool off, or you can eat it warm, and you can serve it with vanilla ice cream. It'll hold the batter together a lot better when it cools off. Now put some vanilla ice cream on that. It would be delicious. Thank you for joining me today, and like always, until next time.